A political earthquake in Brazil that's shaking Latin America and beyond, the dawn of a right-wing era perhaps, and a lot of uncertainty over what it's going to mean for the world's eighth largest economy and its role in the world. A hardline conservative Jair Bolsonaro won Sunday's presidential election. He has said many offensive things in the past, racist, sexist, homophobic things, but still managed to pull off a clear win in a country that is exhausted by deep political corruption and widespread violence in the streets. The Canadian government offering its congratulations to the president-elect. Our country's Foreign Affairs Minister, Chrystia Freeland, issuing a statement today that reads in part, quote, "Canada and Brazil enjoy a deep relationship. We look forward to advancing negotiations toward an ambitious and comprehensive free trade agreement between Canada and Mercosur countries." Brazil is a part of that grouping, and continuing to promote democratic values and human rights. In some of his first words to the nation as president-elect, Bolsonaro, a former army captain, promised to defend the Constitution and unite a bitterly divided country. He is pro-gun, and he has been charged with hate speech in the past. Human rights groups are worried civil liberties will be targeted in Brazil under his rule. He has been nicknamed the Trump of the tropics in the past. We've got Philip Oxhorn standing by. He is a Latin America affairs expert at McGill University in Montreal. Philip, good to have you back. We spoke to you about a week or so ago over the possibility of this happening. Now he has won. What do you think it's going to mean?
I think that a taboo has been broken. This is not the first time that Brazil has had an extreme right-wing president, but it's the first time one has been elected. In fact, it's the same for the region as a whole. And so we'll see what happens. As you said, he's nicknamed the Trump of the South. But unlike the Trump of the North, there are many fewer, much weaker checks on how he might abuse power, should he decide to try and do so.
And to a certain extent, I guess there's a fair argument to say that it wasn't so much that he won as that the establishment lost. People just wanted to, throw the bums out, so to speak. And so many of the sort of mainstream politicians have been tarred by deep corruption. And as we know, tens of thousands of people are being killed in Brazil in murders. I mean, it's so violent there as well. People just wanted change, someone who could promise them law and order.
And add on to that, Brazil is in its worst recession ever, or worst depression. So economic crisis, political crisis, criminal crisis, and they just want to change because it's almost impossible to continue living without dramatic change. The question is the kind of change that's being promised the ideal kind of change that's going to really solve the problems or make them worse?
Some commentators are already saying, oh, no, it's not going to be so bad. A lot of this was bluster. A lot of this was rhetoric. And yet Bolsonaro has been pretty clear going back years and years. I mean, he's been around for a long time, and his views have been controversial for a long time, and he still managed to win a clear victory. So in his mind, he has a mandate.
Well, he does. And the one thing you can't accuse him of is not being transparent. As you said, for years he's been telling us what he believes in. It's quite consistent. It's hard to argue that he suddenly changed to win an election and is going to go back to a much more acceptable political posture. He's very, very much bent on having a world that most of us wouldn't want to live in.
What sort of checks and balances are in place on his power, as far as you can tell?
Well, the two biggest checks are the Constitution and the judicial system. But that's part of the problem because the judicial system is seen as weak and corrupt by many, and it hasn't been able to prevent the corruption and other problems that have racked Brazil for several years. And the other major check on him would be the military. And unfortunately, he seems to be more sympathetic with some of the worst aspects of Brazil's military history than one would be comfortable with. The military can't be counted on to play a role that will necessarily be positive or constructive.
Right, former Army captain, and has certainly been very pro-military during this campaign and prior to that. You think about Brazil, and you, of course, know this country well. This is the world's 8th largest economy. What effect do you think this is now going to have on Latin America?
Well, what will be interesting to see is if he encourages other similarly like-minded far-right presidential candidates in other countries. People who think like him, like Bolsonaro, there are many of them, too many, more than we would like to admit. And so far, their political profile has been very low. That's why he's broken the taboo. Will we see more candidates like this? Probably. Will they win? Sometimes, probably, yes. And it could mean that democracy as a political regime, something that has been near and dear to Latin America for a number of years, is threatened from inside more than it's probably been since the 1960s.
Philip, great to have you with us today and give us
Always
your take on this result. We appreciate it.
my pleasure. Always good to talk to you.